What up, peeps? I'm back. Um, we're continuing on with the Child's Play franchise. We are reviewing Child's Play 2. Um, this film came out in 1990, so 2 years after the original film. Alex Vincent comes back. I don't know. They explained that Andy's mom went psycho and was put in a ward. I don't know if they just couldn't get the original actress back, or maybe they just felt like, well, we don't really need her for the story. In my opinion, I love the first one, but I love this one is where Chucky really becomes Chucky. You have a lot of signature Chucky lines. I think it has a good final act. I find myself really watching this one a lot. Sometimes I even watch it without watching the first. Sometimes, overall, the original three, Child's Play, then they kind of just branch out into other ones. I think are really good. But I like this film, and I love this film, and I watched this one shortly after the first one. I think I watched them right. It was back to back because when they would play them, it was on Encore. It was either Encore or Stars, and they would usually play. If they played Child's Play one, they're gonna play. They typically played the first three. Sometimes they'll play Bride of Chucky, but typically like the first three they play. But overall, this film. Um, so we have a technician, um, a play. So they reconstruct the original good guy doll, which was the one that was Chucky in the first one. They reconstruct him, and basically, we are introduced to and we are introduced to our foster couple, Phil and Joanne, and they have a 17-year-old adopted daughter named Kyle. She's a good character in this. So Andy gets adopted by them. You have a pretty good shot of like Andy in the car, and he passes by like a good guy, um, fucking truck. So they take him to the house, and Andy's in his room. He finds another good guy doll, but he has a different name. It's important later because of what happens. So back at the Play Pals where they make the good guy dolls, they electrocute it back to life, thus killing some workers. And the guy who I think um, is ordered to basically take it by the boss. So he while that happens, while I think the guy had to went into the liquor store. Chucky calls the place to find Andy's location, posing as his uncle. Pretty good one. Like, this is your uncle. This is his uncle Charles, and so he kidnaps the guy, forces him to take him to Andy's foster place. He kills them. He kills him by choking him out with the bag, and then Chucky hides the other doll, breaking like a priceless like some priceless statue that Andy was ordered not to touch earlier. So Chucky does that, poses as the doll, and the next day the next day we see Andy being like kind of antisocial, and he's forced to like because of weird things going on. Um, I like the thing I like about this film though is the isolation aspect. Like, because yeah, he doesn't. Andy doesn't have his mom, and Kyle doesn't really come in and help Andy until like the final act. So Andy's mostly on his own in this, and I think honestly, Alex Vincent it actually played. I think that's the other thing. I don't think he was horrible in the first one, but he was clearly a lot younger. I don't remember if this was his first movie, so maybe he wasn't as good. But I think in this, he was pretty good. You can see the growth in his character, not just like age wise. So he takes and plays with Tommy, which is actually Chucky. Chucky gags him and is about to do the speech, but gets interrupted by Kyle, who came home late. This and then I like the aspect of the adopted parents are shitty. I was especially like because the dad clearly didn't want Andy from the jump because he was like Andy had too much like because they mentioned what happened with Andy in the past and he just didn't want all that baggage. So the next morning, Andy goes to school. There was a deleted scene where you see Ed discussing getting rid of Andy basically with his wife, um, or the dad. I'll just say, oh no, his name was Phil. Sorry, Phil, wanting to get rid of Andy, but it was cut. So Andy goes to school. A kid picks on him, and then while this is happening, while at recess, Chucky comes in because he somehow stows away on the school bus and wrote like "fuck you, bitch" or something on the test. Andy gets in trouble and placed in detention. Um, while this is happening, Chucky scares Andy. Andy runs out. The teacher comes back, and one of my favorite kills. Chucky kills her by he kills her with like some kind of air weapon. Um, and yeah, like, he uses some kind of air horn and then just beats her with the ruler. Like, yeah, he beats her with like a yardstick. And really good kill. And then Andy tries to tell his parents when he gets home, but Chucky somehow miraculously is back. I like how they're trying to make Andy look psycho. That's the aspect about Chucky I like. He can make you look psycho to you. If you try to tell anybody, like, this doll's trying to kill me, people are just not going to believe you. So, that night. Actually, hold on before that. So, later that night, Andy gets an electric knife, which you don't really see a lot of nowadays, but he got it to try to confront Chucky. He fights with Chucky for a second, but Phil walks in on him with the thing. He tries to go to Andy, but then Chucky has like I think a cane, trips him, he's on some wire, and then he basically looks and sees Chucky, and Chucky cuts it. He basically snaps his neck. Um, but and then the ambulance is called, and then Andy tries to go over to like it seemingly like try to comfort the mom, but the mom like is get away like fuck this bitch, man. Not real. Like, do you not realize what this kid's been through? And just blames Andy. So Andy gets kicked out of the house. The social worker's there to pick him up, and while Kyle's on the swing set swinging, she uncovers the other good guy doll, and she comes back up, finds I think her name is Joanne. Yeah, Joanne. Finds Joanne dead. She was she was killed off screen. Really, I kind of wanted to see her die. Fuck that bitch. Fuck both these people. They're just such shitty people, man. But yeah, they. So Andy. So Chucky ends up incapacitating Kyle and forces her to drive him to the social worker. She ends up getting pulled over, but she plays it off, and then she flies Chucky out of the window, and but then they end up at the it's like I think it was the social worker place. So Chucky gets a hold of her, forces her to pull an alarm. Joanne comes down, gets them all into the room. Not Joanne, the social worker I meant. The social worker gets them all in a room. Chucky kills her by stabbing her 3 times, kidnaps Andy, and then basically Kyle chases him, and you have a kind of an iconic scene of Chucky flipping off the camera. Um, They stop at a good guy factory, and we're getting to like, and then she follows him in, and Chucky has Andy down about the same. He does the speech, but he was too late. Um, Kyle comes in for the save, and it's pretty much a nice big chase. I love the factory setting, and there's like a few like a guy who's still working there, who Chucky ends up losing his hand, and he puts his like a knife in his hand. It has a pretty funny line like I hate kids, and he just puts his knife in his hand, and yeah, Chucky just gets incapacitated in a bunch of machine, getting his legs severed. He ends up getting sprayed with molten plastic, like hot molten plastic, and shoves a hose in his mouth, like shoves a hose in Chucky, and he blows up. Really good final act. Even like a scene where Chucky kills a social worker, slices his throat, and then in the funny scene where like the machine puts like the googly eyes in the doll is like so overall really great film. I love the final act of this movie. I think Kyle's a good character. I think the, the parents are fucks, but Chucky was great in this. In my opinion, I find myself watching this one a lot. Um, Alex Vincent, like I said, does a much better job. I think the story, like I said, is much more. I like the whole isolation, like, because even in the first one, it was Andy initially by himself, but then his mom comes and vouches for him in the end. Whereas in this, it wasn't until like the final act where Kyle comes in, but for the most part, sorry,
Wait a second.
loud ass helicopter. Sorry about that. Fucking Kyle coming in the end. Like Andy was on his own. Like he was, and I like the whole like Chucky making Andy look like a psycho. You know, like the whole thing where Chucky followed him to school, but he somehow was able to get home first and be already back in the basement or whatever. Yeah, it was a basement. Like just little things like that. It's a simple hour and a half. I advise watch it. Um, you'll like Chucky in this, and I think the soundtrack's pretty decent. It's not like Chucky doesn't have like compared to like the other slasher villains like Michael, Jason, and Freddy. He doesn't really have an outright theme that like really stands out. But I think the score was good, and I think it's a decent horror film. You do have like more Chucky one-liners in this compared to the first one, so I'll give it that. So, but it's still not comedic, and the way he kills the fucking teacher with the ruler is pretty funny. So, I love this film. This one's a 9 out of like a 10 out of maybe not a 10, but like a 9 out of 10 about. I advise watch it. This is one you're gonna love, and you're gonna love Chucky in it. Tomorrow I am gonna be ranking the DCU films since the Snyder Cut came out, and I will announce I did see Godzilla vs Kong, and I'll give you a quick hint. I liked it. I loved it as a monster movie. I will review that first thing next week, next Monday. I will probably watch. I have to watch it like one more time. But yeah, Monday next week I will have a review out. But tomorrow I'm ranking the DCU, and then Friday no, I'm switching it. Sorry, tomorrow I'm I'm just gonna finish the Nightmare franchise with the review of the remake, and then I'm doing the DCU ranking on Friday. So that's what I meant to say. And then Monday, Godzilla vs Kong review. But other than that, I'm gonna take a hit and then peace out. Alright, guys. Talk to you guys on tomorrow. And other than that, peace.